Welcome back, my friends. This is Uncensored with me, Jeremy Kyle. For the next 5 weeks, you lucky, lucky people. Now, the word food bank entered everyday use in the aftermath of the financial crash and the coalition government's austerity budget. Sadly, it looks like this winter could mark the entrance of warm banks into the English dictionary. The research firm Cornwall Insight predicts the energy price cap is on track to rise, this is ridiculous, to £3,615 a year from January. And with our next two potential prime ministers offering seemingly only U-turns and magic money trees, is there really any serious help reaching households when it's most needed any time soon? Joining me now is Conservative MP Colonel Bob Stewart, along with Dawn Sanford from the Nourish Community Food Bank in Tunbridge Wells. Dawn, before we speak to you, I just want to shoot to Colonel Bob Stewart. Colonel Bob, yes, the British Army you were part of, but also part of the British-Taiwanese all-party parliamentary group, along with Lord Rogan. A quick response from you, Colonel Bob, on tonight's developments, Nancy Pelosi, Taiwan, Al-Qaeda.
Well, I'm very pleased that Pelosi's visited Taiwan. I'd like to see actually more contact with Taiwan. I think we should actually face off China. Taiwan's a very, very successful democratic nation, and we should encourage it. It's absurd that it's not part of the United Nations. That is absurd. It's absurd that it's not part of other international organizations where it's been blocked by Chinese actions. And with regard to the death of al-Zawahiri, I think I'm very pleased that he's gone, because the man actually is the sort of person that wants to kill my family, your family, this country, and destroy our society. So that's my answer to your two questions.
Right, well, that sort of nails it. Thank you, Colonel Bob. Let's move on. Before we speak to Dawn, who runs the Nourish Community Food Bank in Tunbridge Wells. Bob, I said this last night to somebody who gave me, I suspect, the answer you're going to. When people in this country wake up, OK, this morning to hear that BP has yet again reported massive profits, £6.9 billion for 3 months, more than triple the amount it made last year. People say to me, oh, it's a capitalist society, companies have to make profits, last year they made nothing. What do you, a Conservative MP, say, right, your party's been in power for 12 years, to people north and south in this country who are struggling that much they cannot make the payments for their bills, and they hear about these conglomerates coining it in? What do you say, Colonel Bob?
I say we've got to actually look at these profits, because they're immoral. Actually, they're money taken out of all of us. We've actually got to see how we can actually reduce them and actually give that back to the people that actually make the companies have the profits, i.e. the people. That sounds very socialist, but I'm afraid I'm feeling that way myself.
Isn't that interesting from a long-standing Conservative MP? You say that sounds socialist, but to anybody with a heart or a soul, whatever your political persuasion, you would say that that makes sense, because you can't really over-exaggerate, can you, Bob, what this cost of living crisis is doing for people. They are, I mean, people will say, oh, we're struggling, but they really are struggling when bills go up that much. And I don't understand, forget the morality, I don't understand why the government is not saying to these companies, we're going to freeze your profits, we're going to cap your prices, and we're going to look after the people that, frankly, you're ripping off.
I think they are. I think they're going to have a look at this very carefully. I think actually some moves have already been made, and I think we've put the energy companies on notice that they can't continue to do this. They have got to be able to justify these profits and the amount of money that people who work for them get sometimes.
I completely agree. Let's put perspective on this, because it's all well and good, isn't it, on Talk TV to just be throwing figures out the whole time. I want to introduce you to Dawn Sanford, the Operations Director of Nourish Community Food Bank in Tunbridge Wells. When we first spoke, I remember saying to you, Dawn, a food bank in Tunbridge Wells, that sounds ridiculous. Just explain to Colonel Bob, who probably knows anyway, but the people listening, how bad it is, how many more people you're seeing, and the reality of this cost of living crisis, if you can.
The reality is that it is hitting everyone. Across my desk today came a family, working family. Lady in the house is poorly. She's terminally ill. She's been sent home from hospital with an electric-powered hospital bed. can't afford the electricity to run the bed. So we, as a food bank, now provide fuel vouchers for prepayment customers to make sure that they don't get cut off, and to help these people because there's nowhere else for them to turn. Everything is tough. I mean, every time I think I've seen the worst case come across my desk, there comes another.
In Bristol today, we tried to get the mayor of Bristol, who was busy, but that warm banks are going to be created. I mean, just you know, this is 2022. This is the United Kingdom, allegedly the 5th most, you know, financially secure country in the world. Warm banks for people to actually go and stay warm this winter. And that old thing, I mean, I guess, Dawn, what I'm saying is people will go, oh, homeless people go to food banks. But the reality is your clientele's going through the roof, your donations are going down, and it's bleak, right? It's bleak.
Yeah, I'm not getting much sleep. I look a lot greyer than the last time you saw me, Jeremy. Yeah, I mean, our running costs are increased. We are suffering the same as every other business up and down the country. Donations are through the floor because the people who donate, the cost of living crisis is hitting them, and our clients are up because the cost of living crisis is hitting them. There isn't one person that it doesn't affect, not one person. Doesn't matter what end of the scale you're at, you're affected by this.
Colonel Bob, if I can come back to you, the current Tory leadership, we've talked about blue-on-blue attacks. To me, it's too long, it's paralysing government, and both Sunak and Truss should be listening to Dawn Sanford tonight and saying, what can we do as a government after 12 years to prevent warm banks in 2022? How do you respond to that information, Colonel Bob?
Well, I think my answer is that we've got to actually look at the whole package. We've got to look at society completely, because frankly, this is absurd. I can't stand the idea that people in my country don't have enough to eat. We're a rich country and we should sort this out. So something is wrong in the way the way the society works. We've got to sort this out. So we've got to actually make sure that those people, the poorest in our society, are looked after properly. I mean, please don't think that it's just a socialist view of life. It's my view too. I believe absolutely strongly that we as a country must look after those people that can't look after themselves. And that means I think we're going to have to look at the way we order society and the way we do things, because things aren't working particularly well at the moment.
But in terms of, you know, the current leadership candidates, we heard from, you know, Boris Johnson's government was all about levelling up. The reason I've put Dawn on is that's Tunbridge Wells, for goodness sake. What do either of those candidates constructively say, do you think, Colonel Bob, that will inspire people to think we can create? And you say it, you're not a socialist, I guess I'm not, but it's appalling to think that people will have to go to a charitable organisation to stay warm this winter.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and so we've got to do something about it. Goodness knows, I'm no expert on this. I'm not an economist. I'm not.
You're honest, man. You're honest.
You know, I'm as honest as I can be, but I'm still a politician. I've got to do the very best for everyone. But I actually think that in our society, we've now got to look very carefully at those people who in the bottom section of our society who really need help. We need help to get them off that. We need help to get them so they're looked after properly. I mean, it's not just on food, it's also on things like medical care.
Just very quickly, Colonel Bob, don't think me rude. 30 seconds, Dawn, you're shaking your head. What do you want to say?
With all due respect, Colonel Bob, these are not the lowest and the most vulnerable in our communities. Yeah. These are working families. 90% of our clients are working, and the families that are coming across, the households, they are in this because they physically cannot work anymore. They cannot do anything themselves to change their circumstances. They can't increase their hours. There aren't any more hours, or they just physically can't work them. Yet they still
I'm gonna have to wrap.
I don't disagree with that.
I'm going to have to wrap. I could do this all night. Colonel Bob Stewart, you're not a socialist, you're an honest politician. I don't think there's many of them. And Dawn Sanford, what you do and people like you is an absolute credit. Thank you for joining us. Right, next on Uncensored. Last week...